Let's take a quick refresher of the user interface. So we have the pull downs. If the pull downs are unpinned, then you end up with a little arrow and the pop out, and as you drag along they expand out. I prefer to see them if I have the screen space. Staying at the higher resolution, this is kind of what you'll see on your screen. For most of the example videos I go to a slightly smaller resolution. The home screen, when you first launch, you'll see this. There is a box in the bottom when they first launch that says you can turn that off. And it goes to the home icon. So either way, if you like using it, then go ahead and use it. Most of the time I turn that off. Our new part assembly drawing, standard default folders, and then open for open and browse. The saves, prints, undo, redo, Control Z, and then notice that as we're hovering over these, it's popping up with the hotkey. And if we do the redo, Control Y, select for our entities, geometry, rebuild, Control B, and also Control Q to rebuild everything, kind of force a rebuild, and the file properties will be one that we're going to focus on. Again, with the options, if I do the pull down, you have add-ins, save, restore, settings. That should be the same as the restore wizard, and the button size. So for this, I'm going to go up to large, and usually it warns me that it may need to restart. There we go. Might not resize until you restart. All right, that gives us a little more for the video. And coming across the search, if we do the pull down for the search, we can search for commands. So if I wanted to find sketch, I could type in SK and it would give me a list. Right now I'm in SolidWorks help. For these videos I wanted to get actual definitions from the SolidWorks help, so I would just type in document templates and it would take me to that locations or assistance with files and models, and then going out to my SolidWorks, searching the forums, types of things. If you have created a user, which I have not, let's see what that does. User in 2018, I believe, and since I have previous versions and I still run into previous versions of the software, and looks like I probably did not want to do that. Yep, it crashed. Alright, pause so that you wouldn't have to watch the relaunch. Alright, so since it popped back up on a fresh, then here's the do not show on startup. If you want to see this, great. It'll pop up each time. If you don't, then you can do the do not show. Otherwise, you click out. The task pane is also shown. When you click out, both of those will collapse or go back to the icon. Not sure if you've created the login for SolidWorks on a newer version, but as you can see on my desktop, I have installed back to 2013, which this computer is actually 10 years old and still functioning. So the welcome to SolidWorks again, and Control F2. Didn't know that. Forums, searches. What I'm looking for is we can check for updates, which also brings up a good point on the system tray, so I'll try not to forget that. Licenses we can activate and deactivate, which is basically what I'm doing. The purpose of the login is that your single user license, you would be able to log in on this computer, and if you went to log in on another computer, it would disable this one, enable that one, and be able to keep those straight. So if I go down to the system tray, if you're getting a lot of notifications, graphics cards, subscription updates, you can uncheck those. And, check those. So right now I would get graphics notifications, and when I check on, then I'm telling it to dismiss. Alright, so standard window, minimize, maximize. I have dual displays. It will span the displays. Have kind of a wide border, so you need borderless monitors for that to really work. Otherwise, you're kind of jumping over the gap. Restore, maximize, close the program as opposed to the ones in the file that are specifically for that file. We click on the task pane. Be careful of the task pane because we can shrink it to where it will sort of disappear, and when you click on it, it expands, but it's only expanding a couple pixels on that side. So if you push pin it, it will stay. If we go to the settings, what do we want to see? And the property tab builder we'll be looking at. If you're having issues with the computer, the RX, and that is the same as this one, Run System Diagnostics. The settings wizard we already used, and then we can go down the list for the design library, the toolbox, and since I don't have a design library when I reset, apparently it lost that one. The folders open in Solidworks. That could be handy if you're doing anything on the Windows side that requires that that file not be. And then all of our desktop items. The view palette only works in the drawings, so some of these are file sensitive that it won't give us any information, but it's still there and available. Appearances, scenes. We said we wanted to create a default scene. So the basic scenes, the studio scenes, and if you have real view graphics, which a lot of the graphics cards, even laptops with the onboard add-on video cards are able to take advantage of. Problem is, it is usually too much information if you're staring at this screen for a long time. Presentation, yeah, it's nice, but I call them disco. They're fun for a little while, but you know, it's not gonna be something you want to stare at all the time. So I usually come to plain white, set that as my default scene, and it will still show up in the list over here. Other decals, one of the very first videos I did in 2014 in that group was a soda bottle, and we took and scanned a soda decal and wrapped it around the bottle. So those are kind of interesting. And then the property tab builder, again, we'll work with that to write to the file properties. All right, going into a part, we pick up the tutorial, and don't have a file location for that template. So let's just open up the part. And this is our default. So we'll run through this again kind of quick. The system options should all be there from our previous settings. So I'm not real concerned with those, but we could check a few colors. No, went to white kitchen. I thought it was just plain white, but whatever they want to call it. The sketch, auto rotate, mark. Okay, so those items stayed off. If I hit OK, oh, I didn't want to hit OK. It kicked me out. Document properties. All right, so our drafting standard, and even though we set as the default when we installed, usually it's set to ISO and inches, and we can switch to ANSI, ISO. DIN is German, Japanese, British, down through the list. On the annotations, most of these are for the drawing, but they still apply. We got a file not too long ago that had dual dimensions turned on for that document, and it was interesting to look at, but it was really a lot of noise. If I need to be in metric, I'm probably going to work in metric. If I need to be in inch, I'm going to work in inch. Dual dimensions are a little too much information. The virtual sharps, we have the witness marks. So again, more in the drawing side, but if I put a dimension to those locations or insert a sharp to dimension 2, then that's the style that I'll get. what do we want our tables to look like, and then the various tables, bill of material. And I'm going to have to look into the title block table and see if that's in 2022. Dim Expert is our dimensioning model-based definition, our dimensions, and geometric tolerancings directly on the model. Detailing, I'm not fond of the shaded cosmetic threads. Again, they look nice, but there's also, depending on the video card, errors, strange things that can happen. If you display the grid, then you can turn on the snaps to the grid, but this is the spacing. So right now I'm in metric, so 10-inch major grid spacing, 1-inch or 25.4 millimeters between minors, so kind of a darker gray, a lighter gray, and then snap points per minor would be 1. So really the software is very freeform. There are softwares that I like using the grid on and having it snap, but this is not one of them. So our units are millimeters. Our dual dimension is in inches, and angles in degrees. And most of the time for the angular degrees, I'll go with 0.1 or none. Right? Because unless if it's critical, I'm going to add an individual tolerance, but I don't want to make it so tight that everything becomes that much much more of an issue to create. Length in millimeters, grams per unit volume, cubic millimeters, and seconds. How do we want to round? Let's stay with those. The model display we can go through and adjust, but only as needed. Again, material properties are tied to material. The image quality, unless your circles really look like hexagons, probably won't mess with those too much. And this is looking kind of choppy, but we'll see what it looks like when we actually start drawing some circles. Sheet metal notes, sheet metal settings, weldments, plane display, configurations. Okay, so we can kind of play with and tinker with those. So the view, we have the scenes are plain white. I have my real view graphics turned off. I'm not real fond of shadows when I'm working. Perspective, looking down on a part, a cylinder will have an inside and an outside circle because it's going away from you. So we did that one. Quick to appearances. Be careful with the eyeball again. The view is, we'll turn everything off. So hide all types. So when it's grayed out like that, it's hiding all types. When it's kind of lighter, we've toggled it. And I would like to see origins, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off my sketch relations for this. So those are the little green and blue and orange boxes depending on the version. When you open up a sketch and the geometry all has the relations, they're good to begin with, but I can click on any one of those and they pop up. So I really don't need to see all of them all of the time. Other ones, we might want to see planes in the 3D sketches, but we don't do 3D sketches very often. The view grid, I like the temporary axes, but not enough to see them all of the time. If we create coordinate systems, then we'll turn those on. The primary planes we can show as needed. Really, we're trying to lessen the noise on the screen, not make more. So for our space bar, if I want to be in isometric, right now that's kind of great, so we picked up isometric. As I hover over these, we are front, right, back, and it's showing me the control keys. So Control 1 for the front, and then my usual mantra of 1 front, 2 back, 3 left, 4 right, 5 top, 6 bottom, 7 isometric, and 8 normal 2. 8 you have to have something selected for it to be normal 2. So even if I selected a plane, and as I hover over these, we're seeing those planes again that we would want to be able to work with. All right, let's do some customizing. So if I come up anywhere and customize, let's see, and to the add-ins, now that I'm in a file, then we get customize. There's a couple other places where customize shows up, so let's go ahead and do that. My command manager is not enabled. Not sure how that happened. Alright, so we want to make sure the command manager is enabled. I don't think that was a default. It might have been when I was playing for the previous video. We are showing the tooltips, large tooltips without images. So with images gives you a quick, this is what it's going to do. And the small tooltips is just the text. Show on selection. Usually I don't mess with those too much. Quick access tools in the menu bar. And then the lock command manager and toolbars. Alright, so if that is not set, we'll do that real quick just to review. If I drag one of these, the command manager pops out. I really didn't want to do that, so we can put it in a different location on the screen. Staying on the top will be the most common. Other things are the task pane. If I grab onto it, it will pop out. And if we drag back over, it will pop back in. Strange things that we really don't want it to do, so if I lock that command manager, that's usually the best. The shortcut bars, and specifically the S key. So the search they added to as a default to the S key a couple versions ago. Let's see. Scroll down through here, and if I wanted to add, well, let's just search for sketch. So if I type that in, there is the start a new sketch, and I would like to add that to mix, and that gives me the pull down for the 3D sketch, so maybe not that one, let's go with that one. Alright, so by dragging it back in, it can go away, drag the next one out, and it's ready to go. For the assembly, for the drawing, and then in the sketch, as I've used these more, I've decided that my sketch tools, I would like to have, let's see, we should have offset. I don't see mirror. Well, let's just drag a few of these in. Linear pattern, the circular pattern. Don't really want to modify. Haven't really run into the shaded too much. Alright, so if I don't find what I need there, well, maybe I need to find what I need there, because let's see, all toolbars. And there should be some more items. Let's see, are we in? Oh no, we're not in the sketch. There we go. So a lot of this is going to be sensitive. Sketch-driven pattern, components. Still was looking for mirror. All right, so we'll probably add that later. Why don't we just do the mirror? We'll take a look at dynamic mirror, but not a great fan. Let's see, let's take those out. Oh, maybe because I had the sketch started, it was still filtering. So I would like to add the point. We could do, we're going to have the center line there. We have the convert entities and the pull down for that. Maybe the switch geometry, which is more of a right button item, but alright, you get the idea. If it's something that I would like to have on that, then we put that in. Alright, so the view, let's go back to the part. And maybe we'll just go to the, we can go to the commands, and this is going to be the full list. So the view, we have the zoom to fit, zoom to area. We can do the pull down for the shaded styles, but I would like to have solid, hidden lines visible, and that's good enough for the start. The menus, okay, we can modify the pull downs. Don't really do much there. All of the standards, everything's in there. If I copy the list, I can put this list into an Excel file and then run the sorts, see what all of the where these are applied. And then the mouse gestures, if we enable the mouse gestures, then when you right click and drag a little bit to one side up and around, then that's when the gestures pop up, and this is what's going to be on the gestures. If you use them enough, you might want to have 12 turned on. So we'll go ahead and I'm not using those, so we'll go ahead and put those in. Alright, so I've got enough. Actually, the shading did not show up. I know I saw that in the sketch, so must have still been filtering because I didn't have that before. So I would like to add that to the command manager so I see it all of the time. Alright, so enough tinkering. I'll find a few more things and add them as I go. We want to do a file save as, and then this should, when we go, used to be the part templates and all of the Solidworks files were at the top. They went alphabetical. So this went to 2023 templates, and this is going to be my part metric or millimeter or whatever you want to name it. All right, and then immediately under the custom, if I edit the document units, I can switch to inches, and it will have 3 decimal places, and millimeters can go to 2 decimal places. Everything else will pretty much stay the same. I just want to have those dual dimensions not the same. If we activate fractions, we can put in a denominator and have it round up or down. That's kind of a specialty item, so I'm not going to do that here. And then we're going to do a file save as. Notice this is still a PRT.dot, so I want to be careful, and it will save it as a part file now because I've told it. I do need to navigate back to the part templates and then to the inch. Alright, so the other warning that comes with this, let's go ahead and close it, as I don't want to put any geometry in there. It will stay with the document template. It added templates to my mix, so that was nice of it. And the file locations got updated. And I'm not sure which one I launched, so we'll come down here, inch, grams, and seconds. So that might be something I want to change for the inches to go to pounds or something. But usually I kind of think in grams, so we'll see how that one goes. All right, so that sets up our part template. What we haven't done is the file properties. So in the old days, before we had custom properties, we would just come into the file properties and I would add the part number. And I want a description of, this is going to be 3 numbers and, let's see, 3 letters and 3 numbers. That'll give me a combination that I can work with. All right, or I can just hit the space bar, and if I was to save this into the template, then this would stay with that template. Custom properties will allow me to write these to any file, and so if there is an existing, I want to get those fields and make sure that everything's in alignment, so I'm not writing dual property names for the part number. If there's a part no, I want it to show up over in the custom properties. Say, yeah, there's one already there. Configuration properties. So they've changed this interface a little bit. Pretty much looked like the custom before, but now it looks like you have all the configurations on the left, and going in, But configuration properties, we could have a different part number for whatever geometry. So configurations are a method of always go back to a bolt. If I have a hex bolt and I wanted to do quarter 20s that are from 1/2 inch to 3 inches long in 1/8 inch increments, I would not want those 50 separate files. I'd want to use a configuration that controlled the length. So physical configurations control physical properties, where display states control visual properties. And then the summary is the list. So that one's new as well in 2023. So let's see. We'll go ahead and pause here for the part, and we'll go into those custom properties next.